Hi everybody, subscribe to Chemverse tutorial channel and hit the bell icon to get latest chemistry videos. Hello everybody, this is the second lecture on reaction mechanism and we will discuss about the solvent effect on nucleophilic substitution reactions. In the first lecture, I have already covered the basic mechanism of the SN1 and SN2 reactions and the substrate structure dependence on the reactivity of nucleophilic substitution reaction. We had already seen that 3-degree alkyl halide are susceptible for SN1 mechanism and 1-degree alkyl halide is a better choice for SN2 mechanism. And for the 2-degree alkyl halide, it is one kind of borderline. Now, for SN1 and SN2 mechanisms, apart from the substrate structure, there are some other factors like your solvent effect, nucleophilic strength, leaving group, nature of the leaving group, whether it is a good leaving group or not. So, these all will be discussed one by one. So, this lecture is based on our effect of solvent on the substitution nucleophilic reaction mechanism. Now, before going to start today's class, let's discuss something about solvent and in this case we will classify the solvent on the basis of their polarity. Polarity means what will be the total dipole moment or net dipole moment in a molecule. Now if the net dipole moment is, that is the mu effective dipole moment, or you can say that it's a net dipole moment, is non-zero, then they are called the polar molecule or polar solvent. And when those solvents have net dipole moment is equals to 0, then they are called a non-polar. So there are few examples of non-polar solvent like N-hexane, N-pentane, benzene, CCl4. Now you will say that carbon and chlorine, they are already forming the polar bond because chlorine is more electronegative, so it will be delta negative, it will be delta positive to some extent, and there will be a net dipole moment pointing towards the chlorine atom, which is a more electronegative atom over here. But if you draw the structure of carbon tetrachloride, you can see that over here it is due to the presence of more electronegative chlorine atom, there will be a dipole moment pointing upwards, but there will be 3 dipole moments pointing downwards. Now if you take the sum of the 3 dipole moments pointing down, so there will be a resultant dipole moment which is exactly equal and opposite to this. So overall net dipole moment of this molecule becomes 0. So it makes carbon tetrachloride a non-polar molecule. Now our polar solvents are again classified into protic polar solvent and aprotic polar solvent. From the name protic, you can guess that it is somewhat related to proton. Actually it has ionizable H plus, that ionizable hydrogen or proton in the structure of their molecule, and you can think that they can form hydrogen bonding under suitable condition like your water. Now in water molecule, oxygen is way more electronegative than hydrogen atom, so this OH bond is very much polar bond, and oxygen will be delta negative, it will be delta positive, and under certain condition you know that it can be ionized in this way. So this is the case of water molecule. The same thing occurs for alcohol like methanol, ethanol. What I can see for this kind of molecules, again oxygen is more electronegative, much more electronegative than hydrogen. As a result of that, it can produce this kind of, it can be ionized in this way, you can think that. So H plus can be abstracted from there, so they are called protic solvent. And for aprotic solvent, there is no such ionizable proton, or it cannot form hydrogen bonding under suitable condition. So the examples of aprotic polar solvents are DMSO, acetone, acetonitrile, HMPT, THF, etc. I am going to show you the structure of these molecules. Over here you can see the structure of some polar aprotic solvent. You can think that in case of the acetone, it's a very good solvent, but if you check the polarity of this CO bond, oxygen is more polar, so this will be the polarity induced in a molecule. It's a major dipole present in the molecule. Now you can think that in case of carbon and hydrogen, there are electronegativity difference, but the difference is very small between the sp3 carbon and hydrogen. So that tiny dipoles are neglected over here. So the major dipole we can find over here, that oxygen is delta negative and carbon is delta positive. So there's a dipole moment pointing upwards towards oxygen. The same kind of thing can occur in case of the sulfur and oxygen. In DMSO, it's your dimethyl sulfoxide molecule, and over here a dipole moment can act over here in this direction. Now in case of dimethyl acetamide, oxygen and nitrogen both are more electronegative than carbon, so it will be some amount of delta negative. It will also acquire some amount of delta negative charge, and it will be delta positive. So this kind of polarity will be there, and of course the net dipole moment is non-zero, so it's a polar one. But remember, in all cases CH bond is present, rather sp3 CH bond. Now sp3 CH bond cannot give or cannot donate H+. So they are not a protic solvent. They all are polar but aprotic solvent. HMPT, full form of HMPT is hexamethyl phosphorus triamide. Structure is something like this, where there are 3 NMAT groups are attached to this P double bond O, and it is delta negative to some extent because oxygen is the more electronegative than phosphorus. So similar kind of polarity can be induced over these bonds between the phosphorus and nitrogen also. So it will be a polar molecule, but it cannot donate proton. It cannot form hydrogen bonding. Similar kind of thing is occurring in the case of tetrahydrofuran or acetonitrile even. Okay, so in all cases there will be sp3ch bond, and this bond is not that much polar enough so that it can donate H+. Okay, now we will move on to our another concept, that means polar compounds are stable in polar solvent. Okay, polar compounds are stable in polar solvent, and I am taking sodium chloride as our experimental molecule, and it is our substrate, you can think that, and it is ionizable, thereby forming a ionic species like Na+ and Cl-. Now what will happen if I dissolve this NaCl in some polar solvent? Okay, so this is to check right now that how NaCl is dissolved into, or what is the interaction between NaCl and polar solvents. So the case 1 is whenever we are using some polar protic solvent like H2O. So over here, this is the case of the solvation process. In solution, NaCl forming Na+ and Cl-, and now Na+ and Cl- are surrounded by the water molecules, which are basically the solvent molecules, in this way that over here oxygen is delta negative, and this negative end interacts with your Na+ and thereby stabilizing the cation, and in the similar way the positive end of the solvent, which is a polar solvent, okay, so that can interact with the Cl-. This kind of interaction is called your ion dipole interaction. Why it is called ion dipole interaction? Because this sodium plus is ion, Cl- is ion. Well, irrespective of their charge, nature of the charge, it could be cation or anion. So it is interacting with some dipoles. Look at this. These are the dipoles. Okay, this is one dipole pointing towards here. So there are tiny dipoles in the molecule. So this is the interaction between ion and dipole, and it's much stabilizing interaction. So that's why you can see that over here polar protic solvent can stabilize both the cation and anion. Okay, so both cation and anion are stabilized by ion dipole interaction in case of your polar protic solvent. Okay, now moving on to our case number 2. What will happen if we add NaCl into some polar aprotic solvent like DMSO? So let's check what will happen in case of the sodium plus. So let's take a look at this. Sodium plus, that means the cation, is solvated with the negative end of the dipole present in the solvent molecule. So it is to some extent solvated and stabilized. Okay, so cation is also stabilized in polar aprotic solvent like DMSO in this case. Now what will happen if I try to stabilize chloride, that means Cl-? So here one very interesting thing is that the major dipole present in DMSO molecule is this one between oxygen and sulfur. So the positive end over here is the sulfur, which has to react with this chloride in order to stabilize them, or you can think that the ion dipole interaction should be there. But whenever they approach towards chlorine, these large CH3 groups hinders their approach. So what you can think that here the positive charge, in most of the cases, in most of the aprotic solvent, what happens, the positive charge is less available for the interaction, ion dipole interaction with the anion. So as a result of that, what you can see that in most of the, it's a general rule, not always it is applicable, but in most of the cases, what we can see, the ion dipole interaction is much weak with the anion. In case of the anion, it is very, very weak interaction, and that is why the anions cannot be stabilized. You can see that over here the positive end of the dipole of the solvent molecule, means it is pointing towards this one. The positive end means this sulfur, okay, is buried into the solvent molecule. You can think that it is to some extent present inside. So in outside there are bulky methyl groups which are basically hindering the interaction between sulfur and chlorine. Now moving on to our two experimental findings which are directly related to our SN1 and SN2 mechanism. Now finding number 1 says that the rate of solvolysis of this molecule Me3CBr. So let's draw this molecule. Well, this is a tertiary alkyl bromide, is increased, it should be increased, okay, is increased by 3 into 10 to the power 4 times when we use 50% aqueous ethanol as solvent instead of ethanol alone. So what does it mean actually? So 50% aqueous ethanol means there will be 50% water and 50% ethanol, so 1:1 mixture of ethanol is to water. Now if you consider the polarity of ethanol and water, both are polar molecule, but H2O is more polar than ethanol, okay. So 50% aqueous ethanol, this solution, ethanol solution, has more polarity than your ethanol alone, okay. So this is first point. Now over here, both aqueous ethanol, that means ethanol and water, both are your polar protic solvent. So now you can think that the solvolysis rate, okay, solvolysis means it is your SN1 mechanism, okay. Solvolysis follow SN1 mechanism. In my previous class I have already given you this information. So for SN1 mechanism, what is the intermediate or the most important step is the formation of a carbocation intermediate. From here I can say that this leaving group bromide goes away from the system, thereby producing this kind of carbocation, and this is the leaving group itself. So what I can say that it's your rate determining step, it is the most important step, and the stability of the carbocation is the important factor to govern the rate of the reaction, okay. Now for here what you can see, this is potentially a neutral molecule. If you consider this one, this is a polar molecule, okay, due to the presence of more electronegative bromine over here, but overall it will be a neutral molecule. From neutral molecule, charges are producing, this is the cationic species and this is the anionic species, and you know that cations and anions, this kind of whenever ion formation is occurring, so those are stabilized in the polar protic solvent, okay. So ions are stabilized in polar protic solvent. So for SN1 mechanism, since discrete ions are forming, one is the carbocation, another is the anion, which is the leaving group itself. So that requires a stabilization, and polar protic solvent can give the stabilization by the solvation or hydrogen bonding like interaction, ion dipole interaction. Okay, so these two are solvated. Now matter is that where this stabilization will be greater. So now another information you need to understand: more polar solvent can stabilize carbocation intermediate effectively. Okay, so as a result of that, what you can see, if polarity of the solvent increases, okay, if the polarity of the solvent increases, automatically the stabilization of the cation increases. So the stabilization of cation increases, and it will result in the increase in the rate of SN1 mechanism. This will also increase. So this is a very important point over here. Okay, so this is the possible explanation for our first finding. That means why the rate of solubility is increased, because this 1:1 ethanol water mixture will have more polarity than ethanol alone, and as a result of that you can see that there is nothing but the increase in the rate, and that is a very big value, 3 into 10 to the power 4. So it's a very large value. So the rate is increased by such an extent. Now moving on to our second finding. The substitution reaction of methyl iodide. Okay, methyl iodide is a primary iodide with N3 minus. Now N3 minus is our attacking nucleophile. So from here what you can see, that the mechanism is a SN2 mechanism. It's a primary halide. Okay, delta minus, delta minus, delta positive, and this will be your product. So this is the case. What is happening in this case here, SN2 reaction is taking place where azide N3 minus serves as a nucleophile. Okay, now the substitution reaction of methyl iodide with azide is increased by 4.5 into 10 to the power 4 times when we change our solvent from methanol to DMF. In bracket what you can see, the epsilon value is given. It is nothing but your dielectric constant. So it is your dielectric constant. Now one more thing is that dielectric constant is a measure of polarity of any solvent. Higher the dielectric constant value, higher will be the polarity of the solvent. Now if you compare these two values, this has the value of 33 and this is 37. Although DMF is more polar, but the polarity is more or less similar. Okay, so they will have very close polarity difference. But matter is that the rate is increased such an extent. So the basic factor is not the polarity. Now if you compare these two solvents, in one case solvent is your methanol. Okay, it's your methanol solvent, and in another case it is your DMF, dimethyl formamide. Dimethyl formamide. So now you can see that both are polar solvent, but for methanol it is your protic solvent. Okay, for the DMF it is your aprotic solvent. Obviously both of them are polar solvents. Now protic solvent can stabilize both cation and anion. You can know that. Now what is the anion over here? If you think that before the reaction is happening in the reaction medium, this is your substrate molecule, which is a methyl iodide and azide So azide is the anion, and now this azide, okay, this azide nucleophile itself can be stabilized with the help of this kind of solvation from methanol. Okay, this kind of solvation will occur. Now over here nitrogen is present and hydrogen is bonded with oxygen. So this solvation is a very stabilizing interaction due to the hydrogen bonding. Hydrogen bonding interaction is there. Okay, and you can think that it's nothing but one kind of ion dipole moment interaction, ion dipole interaction. So due to this kind of interaction, this negative charge is surrounded by the positive ends of the methanol molecule, that means the protic solvent, which is forming the hydrogen bonding. So the negative charge density to some extent decreased, and if negative charge density over the nucleophile decreases, this will decrease the nucleophilicity, because nucleophilicity means the donor ability. Higher the charge density over the donor center of any nucleophile, higher will be the nucleophilicity. Now over here what we can see, that it is due to the solvation and the hydrogen bonding interaction. So the negative charge density decreases, and this will in turn decrease the, so this kind of solvation decreases nucleophilicity of azide. So this is very vital point. It is decreasing the nucleophilicity of azide. So if the nucleophilicity decreases, now for SN2 reaction, okay, for SN2 reaction, nucleophile must be strong. Why? Because in the rate expression for SN2 reaction, the rate expression is dependent on both the substrate concentration and the nucleophilic concentration. So nucleophile plays a very important role in SN2 reaction in order to the determination of the rate, whether it will be faster or slower. So strong nucleophile, so over here you can see that strong nucleophile means rate of SN2 will increase. In the next class I will discuss about the effect of nucleophile on the substitution nucleophilic reactions and mainly the SN2 reaction. Okay, so from here what you can see, that this methanol is your polar protic solvent, and that is why it is decreasing the nucleophilicity of the azide, and the rate will be slower in methanol. Okay, but for DMF, which is basically a polar aprotic solvent, this anion azide is not suitably solvated in DMF. So what you can see, that in case of the aprotic solvent like DMF, N3 minus is not stabilized through solvation. Why? Because aprotic solvent cannot stabilize anion. Okay, so that's why what you can see, that over here this N3 minus is open for the nucleophilic attack, and the rate will be much higher, and it is reflected in the experimental data. It is 4.5 into 10 to the power 4 times greater. The rate is higher. So this is our possible explanation of the second experimental finding. And over here what we had discussed, now if I summarize this thing, that so the main important thing what we have learned, that SN1 is favorable in polar protic solvent, okay, and SN2 in polar aprotic solvent. It is favorable in polar aprotic solvent. And another point is that if polarity increases, rate of substitution reaction increases, providing these factors matches with each other. Okay, that means if we increase the polarity but we are using protic solvent in SN2, then obviously rate cannot increase. So we have to follow the first criteria, that for SN1 we will choose any protic solvent, polar protic solvent obviously, and for SN2 we will choose polar aprotic solvent. Clear? So that's all for today. So we will start our next class with the effect of nucleophile on the rate of substitution nucleophilic reactions. So watch all the videos and sequentially so that you can understand all the topics clearly. Thank you. Happy learning.